What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So today we're actually going to talk about a secret message that was found in the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer by fans, and it's kind of cryptic, but they figured it out, and it does pretty much lean into what we figure is happening in the trailer, but it was a pretty cool little Easter egg that was put in there. We're also going to talk a bit about Ghost of Tsushima, as there was a supposed leaked document put out on Reddit that kind of blew up on there and then went all over the internet. But I'm going to show you where that document came from because it doesn't appear to be Sony, which tells me Ghost of Tsushima probably isn't coming in 2019. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure you hit the like button. It does help out. We're actually going to start today with Retro Studios. Now, Retro Studios work on Metroid Prime 4. We kind of hope they're making some good progress. However, when we see job listings like this one, as you're seeing for an art director, it kind of makes us assume that they're really not as far along as we would have hoped. It is an odd thing to be hiring now if they've been working on it for a little while, because unless somebody kind of left midway through or development is going on and somebody had to take a leave for a little while, that's the only thing I can think of, because to look for an art director now should tell us that they're really not that far along in terms of development at all. We figured we wouldn't see this for a while, maybe a couple of years, but to be honest, looking at stuff like this kind of makes us feel like this might be one of the last games on the Switch. Some people are even thinking it might not be on the Switch. I think it will be on the current Switch that we know now, but I think it might be one of those like cross-generation games. It's very possible as well. Think of like Breath of the Wild, how we had that, right? Wii U and Switch. I could see that being like the Switch and then, I don't know, the Switch 2 or something, years from now. But yeah, it looks like Metroid Prime 4 really is gonna be kind of hidden for a while as they work on Metroid Prime 4. Also, we know Witcher 3 is coming to the Switch, and we've seen some resolution numbers that, of course, throw a lot of us off, because you hear 540p in handheld mode, and you don't usually assume that it's gonna be great. You hear that low number, but keep in mind it's on a smaller screen. 720p, I think, on like a bigger screen is actually a bit more jarring than on a handheld, and that's, of course, why a lot of people get the Switch, is because it's a portable system as well. So when we hear CD Projekt Red say things like they are very happy or even proud of the port, it does make us wonder how it's going to look when we actually get it in our hands. In fact, in an interview, as you're seeing here, they talked specifically about The Witcher 3 on the Switch. This was with VGC, where they say, we're really happy with how Witcher 3 is playing on Switch. It's still at a quality that we're proud of, but we also understand that there were hardware trade-offs that we had to do in terms of performance versus graphics. They go on to talk about how draw distance was affected. Of course, that was something that shrink down foliage, but they say the biggest thing appears to be with the interface, probably to kind of make it work on like a portable system. We got, again, the smaller screen, they got to make it all fit on there and legible and everything. That seems to be the biggest change, but they did say they fit everything, including the expansions, all on that cartridge, so that's probably the coolest thing, is that we possibly could see bigger cartridges start to show up, and it looks like CD Projekt Red is going to be one of the first to leverage it worldwide. Also, we found out who's working on the Link's Awakening remake. It's actually Grezzo. This was actually told to us from Jason Schreier, who talked to Al Numa himself about Breath of the Wild 2, which we'll kind of come back to this when we're talking about the secret message and everything, but he also found out that Grezzo is the team that is currently working on Link's Awakening, and that's actually pretty cool, because this would be, I guess, Grezzo's first real project on the Switch, as they are known for things like Ocarina of Time 3D, right? Majora's Mask on the 3DS, and now they're moving up to the Switch, and that's, of course, what we figured when I guess the handheld and the console divisions and Nintendo would come together to work on the Switch. Pretty cool stuff there, and it'll be neat to see their first outing and see how all that goes. So far, it looks great. Like, I can't wait to play Link's Awakening. It just looks fantastic with the art style and everything, and I really want to see what I remember from the Game Boy reimagined in that art style on the Switch. It's gonna be really cool, and hopefully for Grezzo, it goes over very well, performance and everything, and they can possibly move on to another project, maybe with Zelda, or hey, maybe Nintendo has something else in mind for them. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're gonna start right away with Breath of the Wild 2's secret message, because when we, of course, saw the trailer, a lot of us weren't really thinking about kind of the, I guess, the symbols and stuff that were kind of being flashed on screen conveniently when things were moving around. We didn't really think too much about that. We were just trying to take in what it was. And then, of course, we see Link and Zelda, and we're like, wow, this is this is a Zelda game. So a lot of us didn't really take in what was technically being conveyed to us. We of course saw the corpse and stuff. They kind of turned its head and then we zoom out and it was a whole thing. It was a lot to take in, right? But some serious fans of course, the Zelda series examined it, as I would expect a lot of people to, and they found out that some of those symbols actually match up with the Gerudo language. As you're seeing here, they actually took them, matched them up, and they came up with a phrase. It is Seal Ganon, which, yeah, that kind of lines up with what we figured is happening here. We figured, well, Ganon is most likely what we saw down there, and it technically woke up, I guess. He's been sealed this whole time, and that would kind of set us up for the second one. But if he's been sealed that whole time, and Hyrule was, thrown into all of that chaos, and everything was going on, it does make us wonder what the second one is gonna be, and it kind of plays more into that dark mentality that we're hearing, the dark setting, where it was going to be kind of like Majora's Mask compared to Ocarina of Time setup, where we're going to have Breath of the Wild 2 be darker than Breath of the Wild. So that's really cool to hear. I like the idea of that, and I really like them hiding these little things in the trailer, and the fans to be able to figure all of that out, actually go in and use a language from the game to translate that and figure out that it says Seal Ganon. Now, I told you that Jason Schreier talked to Aonuma about Link's Awakening, but he also got some more information as to how they've been, I guess, developing Breath of the Wild 2, because it does sound like they've been developing it longer than people would expect. Like, it sounds like it's been actually a couple of years, and what's happened here is I talked to you about Grezzo doing Link's Awakening. That's actually freed up, it sounds like anyway, for the main team to be working on the sequel. And according to Aonuma himself, the reason they're doing a sequel is because they just had too many ideas for DLC, and we got DLC. So they have even more ideas on top of that. Like, maybe they wanted the DLC to be like a whole nother game, and they were like, well, hold on, guys. We can't spend 4 years developing a DLC. Let's actually just do a whole nother game. And I think that's actually what's happening here, to where it's going to release, I think, holiday 2020. Like, I think they've been working on this thing since the release of Breath of the Wild in 2017, and the DLC was something that they had already been planning out because they had so many ideas. Instead of put it all into DLC and say, hey guys, we're gonna release DLC for like the next 3 years, we're just gonna make a whole nother game with the same world and everything, and that's gonna be pretty cool. And I do think that's gonna be like their big holiday game for next year. And a lot of it has to do with them already having made Breath of the Wild and taking years and years to do that. They're gonna build on top of it. So I'm actually more excited, I think, for Breath of the Wild 2 than I was for Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild was already like amazing, and now they're going to build on top of that, and I think it's going to be even better. So it's going to be really fun. Next up, let's talk about Astral Chain. It's a game that I'm looking forward to, and one that I think could sneak up on some people, as in there is a chance that when this comes out, if it is very, very good, it could actually be up there as a nominee for Game of the Year. It's very possible, but again, it's going to come down to how it's received and how it actually all comes together and plays, because so far, so good, but we've seen this happen before, where a game looks great before it comes out, and then it comes out, and it's not as good as we were imagining. But it sounds like there's just more information on top of information about this game that we didn't know about, and that includes co-op. Apparently there's going to be straight up co-op in this game if you want it to happen, and it's been compared by Platinum Games to Mario Galaxy. Kotaku had a full write-up on this, where if you take the two Joy-Con controllers, split them off, one person will control the main character and the other person will control the Legion, who is then chained to your character, and you guys can actually come together and work together to do different abilities and pull off really cool combos stuff. It does sound like, according to them, it would be harder because you would have to, of course, communicate and work together, whereas, of course, if you can play it by yourself, you can decide when everything is happening right together, because you are essentially trying to control both at the same time. So I guess if you split them off, you would seriously have to be talking constantly, or let them know, hey, go over here, I'm gonna go over here, and we're gonna, wrap the chain around this, because they were doing that in the treehouse, where they were actually taking the chain and wrapping it around different things, and it was a pretty cool thing to see. Like, it was really neat to see how this is gonna all work out, and it looked like the performance was good, and now we're hearing about co-op, so I just wonder how much more there is to Astral Chain that we won't even find out till it comes out. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this game coming out at the end of August. Next up, let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima, and we're going to talk a little bit about an alleged document that was put out online and got people really hyped and excited because it seems to point to Ghost of Tsushima releasing 2019. Now, initially when I saw this, I said, okay, maybe they're talking about fiscal year, maybe it's not out, maybe it's like the early game coming out next year in 2020, maybe it's like a March release or something. But then, of course, we've heard rumors about Last of Us 2 actually filling in that spot. And then you look a little further into it, and this actually didn't come from Sony, which is the initial idea that a lot of people had, that it was actually from Sony to show to shareholders saying, hey guys, we got Ghost of Tsushima coming out in like the next 8 months or so. It's gonna be great. No, this was actually made by an investor, I guess to get people hyped or excited. They seem to want to push just Sony in general. Here's actually, the image is pretty clear as something you would show to shareholders, but then here is the actual site and I guess the people that did create this. This is actually from Third Point and their own investor, Daniel Loeb. Their idea is to push Sony forward. And how do they do that? Well, I guess they're making these alleged tables to then show to, I guess, the world or pretend like it was leaked out. This wasn't even really, to me, shown to any shareholders at any kind of event or anything. And all it's really done is work to get people excited about a possible drop for Ghost of Tsushima this year, when it's technically just a fake leak, I guess. It's not actually a thing. See, Death Stranding, of course, coming out later on this year. We know that. I don't know why Ghost of Tsushima would pop up in October or December when they're trying to sell Death Stranding. I could see it possibly coming out early next year, but again, Last of Us 2 is supposed to be there. There's actually a belief at this time that Ghost of Tsushima could be launching around the time of the PlayStation 5 coming out holiday 2020, which wouldn't be too shocking since, of course, the PlayStation 5 is supposed to be fully backwards compatible. What could happen here is Ghost of Tsushima comes out, it works on both as a cross-generation game where a patch goes to the PlayStation 5, and it looks better, performs better, all of that. So no, I don't expect Ghost of Tsushima to come out this year, even early next year. This appears to just be an investor, a very large investor, by the way, very large investor in Sony, just putting a piece of paper out there, I guess, as a wish list? I'm not sure. And our last bit of news, talk about the NPD, because it does look like that the Switch was the best-selling piece of hardware in May. However, it doesn't actually offset the declining sales of the other two systems that are pretty much coming up on the end of their generation. The PlayStation 4, I think, it's sold a system to like everyone who wants one at this point. I mean, they're going to sell 100 million units, and the Xbox has slowed anyway over time, and that's just kind of what happens towards the end of a generation. Everyone just has the system. The Switch is still selling really, really well. Of course, it's like right in its mid-generation just about. It's almost at the halfway point, I think, at this time. So it's still selling really, really well, and a lot of people expect it to pretty much take every single month for the NPD of 2019, and I wouldn't be shocked if that happens. And going to the actual games list, which you're seeing here, we'll actually do the whole top 20 so you can get a look. Mortal Kombat 11 stuck at the top, so that's actually really cool for Mortal Kombat 11. Now, of course, it came out towards the end of April, but it still topped the charts. And then here we are back again in May, where it also tops the charts again, which is great for Mortal Kombat. Apparently, it is the best-selling second month for any Mortal Kombat ever that they've tracked. Days Gone actually pretty high up there at number 2. That's actually not bad. Total War 3, Kingdoms but 3, Rage 2, 4, that might be a little lower. I would have liked to have seen Rage 2 come in at number 2, but that does not track digital sales according to them. Grand Theft Auto 5, which just never goes away, at number 5. Smash Bros. Ultimate, also no digital sales there at 6. Red Dead Redemption 2 at 7. MLB 19, The Show at 8. Minecraft at 9. NBA 2K19, and then going down from there, we have Mario Kart 8. We have Tom Clancy's Division 2. Call of Duty Black Ops 4, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, Marvel's Spider-Man, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Team Sonic Racing, and Yoshi's Crafted World. Looking back up this list, I would say the biggest disappointment is probably Team Sonic Racing at number 19. That is fairly low for that game, and it's kind of a shame to see that because it's actually not a bad game, but I guess the marketing just wasn't there. So the Switch at number 1 is most likely going to be a trend going forward. It's going to be more interesting, I think, to follow the games that Nintendo puts out, right? Like Link's Awakening. Will that be able to top the charts in September? Probably not. There's a lot of stuff around it in September, and then others going forward from there. What about Pokemon, right? We already know the Switch is going to top the charts, but to see the games and the software as the Switch has grown in terms of hardware numbers, that's going to be the question. Can Nintendo top a few of these charts with their software? Because they're already going to do it with their hardware. And we'll finish up today with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one's from Sinister134 saying, just to touch on why they showed more Sims than Jedi Fallen Order, EA announced that the Sims games, including expansions, have sold more than 175 million units of the franchise since it first launched in 2000. So maybe that was their justification for the long stage time. That actually makes a lot of sense, right? Because of course it sells well for them, but I would argue that the audience that's probably playing The Sims most likely isn't tuning into EA Play. Just to be honest, I mean, a lot of us tune into EA Play to see Jedi the Fallen Order, and that was kind of it. Like, I think a lot of us tuned out after that. I'm not saying that there weren't people who were interested in The Sims, but I think the people that they target for The Sims are not necessarily tuning into E3 like that, right? To see like a presentation at EA Play. Definitely not more than something like Jedi Fallen Order, but I get they want to put that in front of people because it's sold so well for them. However, I think they could have spent much more time on Jedi Fallen Order and given The Sims like 15 minutes or something, and it would have been the same exact effect. The thing would have sold just the same. But to hear all of a sudden that Jedi Fallen Order is like, has like Metroid influences, and it's like a world that you can explore and you unlock paths as you play through it and you have a crew. We saw Uncharted, but they're trying to sell like a Metroid style game with Star Wars. I would have liked to have heard about that rather than watch them run through a hallway with some turns. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Breath of the Wild 2's secret message that was hidden. Do you like the little Easter eggs in these trailers? And then what do you think Breath of the Wild 2 is gonna look like? How do you think it's gonna play? I'm very curious what your thoughts are on the plot and everything. Very interesting stuff there. And then what about Ghost of Tsushima? Do you think that's a cross-gen game that's not coming out till late 2020, or maybe you do think it's coming out in 2019 or maybe even early 2020, and Last of Us 2 is going to be that cross-gen game? Very curious there, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.